Welcome back to the American Dream. We're on episode 3. Today is July 11th. It's a Sunday. Um,
No, it's a Saturday.
just kidding. It's a Saturday.
Almost Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Oh,
I just got off work around 4. And
yeah. Today, usually when I work at a fast pace.
mhm.
But today, for some reason, I was way behind on. So I work on the line where I basically make people's food. And then sometimes I work in the back,
Mhm.
prepping stuff. So there's like 5 stations behind, and each station does something different for certain stations up front.
Right.
And I do like lettuces and basically almost anything related to vegetables, like wok or pico and stuff like that. So you get a list, and then there's like probably like at least 30 items to make,
What?
and you have to make it to last the whole day.
Hmm.
So usually you don't have to do all of them on the list. Maybe there's a few items off, so they mark 0, so you don't have to make anything. But usually I get done around 4, and that's me just sort of stretching out the time so I can get my full 7 hours, 7 or 8 hours.
Yeah. Full day's
Yeah,
work shift.
but for some reason today I was not working that good.
Yeah. You just felt like it was a slow day or slow, like, energy.
Slow as, yes, not slow energy. I had energy, but I felt like I was doing stuff, but I wasn't advancing.
Right.
But the good thing is that, so they have like an intercom system. So whenever someone needs something, they tell the person up front, and then they call it back and request the item. And then usually we just tell the manager it's in the back already in the cooler, or you start making it and then bring it up.
Okay.
But I don't like when they do that to my station, so I try to always make sure everyone has their items, and that way they don't call my name and say you need to bring this up. So luckily yesterday I prepped enough, so nobody needed anything. Now, like, as I was finishing up, they started calling like 2 items, but I did them real quick, and then I finished those off. And
Right.
yeah, but I felt like I was behind, but I actually wasn't, because everyone had their stuff. So
Right. Yeah. I mean, I would say pretty much the same. I start around 9 a.m. And usually on Saturdays, I like to try to wake up a little bit early and just be a little bit more active before I head on the court. But I just realized something as you were talking is that in my job setting, I have the opportunity to be like outside and get fresh air and like just enjoy the sun, or if it's like nice and the weather's nice, I can enjoy it. Whereas you're stuck indoors all the time, pretty much.
yeah, and then with like the things that I do in prep, it's basically the same things every single day.
Right.
That's why I don't like working there for a long period. Usually maybe like 2 or 3 days out of the week is fine with me. But for now, since there's a lack of staff because people don't want to come into work for like unemployment, maybe they're getting paid better,
You're getting paid more.
or they're scared of maybe contracting a virus.
Right.
But yeah, they're lacked in staff, so the people who usually work in prep, they send them back to be dishwashers, and then I usually work on the line, and they send me back to the prep.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I'm fine with working 2 or 3 days, but then it just gets repetitive, and then I just get bored. So
Right.
That's what I think happened today. I was just not trying to do the same thing I've been doing for the past 5 days.
Right.
So luckily tomorrow I work on the line, so it's something different. And even though it's the same things being prepped, because you also do like a little prep, but the items that are coming in, or the food that people order, it's different each time. Sometimes you might make more of this one day, then the next day you might make something else more.
Right.
So it adds a little variety, but yeah, it's always good to be outdoors and basically, I mean, get the fresh air.
Yeah.
Because most of the time I'm just in there, and then with the masks, with the AC or the grills on that heat coming like towards you,
Right.
it just makes everything like worse.
Right.
And I guess you might feel that also if you're wearing a mask outside and it's really hot.
Well, I don't have to wear the mask outside anymore unless I am like in very close vicinity with the person I'm teaching. So, yeah, I mean, it's for me, it's kind of a little more flexible. I'm just glad that my boss was able to just adjust things and be able to give us that flexibility. But yeah, I mean, being outside is great. Even more like the weather has been really like sunny and like very humid for the last week. So teaching outside was a little bit of a drag sometimes. But I was just like, I mean, it is what it is. You know what I mean? Like, if it wants to be hotter than that, it could be, but it's not. It's still pretty hot, but
Yeah.
it's.
Were you worked yesterday, so did it rain while you were
Yes,
there?
actually, the rain kind of ruined my plan. So I had planned to teach a couple lessons at the country club. I don't know if I've mentioned this on the podcast, but I work at two places. I work at Wicked Tree Tennis Club, which is in Columbus, and then I work at Medallion Country Club, which is in a little more north of Westerville,
Like Sunbury.
and Sunbury, yes, Sunbury area. And the rain kind of just ruined my plans because I had decided to teach a couple lessons at Wicked Tree in the morning and then drive over there immediately and teach a couple. I think I had 3 lessons scheduled, and then on my way there, it just started pouring. And one thing that's kind of been strange as far as like the weather living here, I know we talk about like our experience living here and then talk about our experience coming from a different country. It was like, I think like even hail is like was a culture shock too. So like just understanding that like it can be raining ice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like some of like in a sense, I've seen videos. Then I started seeing videos of even larger blocks of ice falling
Yeah.
out of the sky.
Yeah,
you know
they
what I
look like giant, like
Yeah.
a little bigger than like pebbles.
mean? Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one thing that kind of strange. When I was driving over to go teach lessons and the rain interrupted me, the droplets that were coming on my windscreen, it was just like huge, and it just like felt like they were really like crushing on the
Yeah.
window.
I think it was 2 days ago. I was working, and then out of nowhere, this like lady just started screaming. She's really obnoxious sometimes and loud. And I guess usually they have a towel so the door doesn't lock. So if people go out, they can just open it instead of ringing like a doorbell. And I guess
because it locks automatically.
it locks once you close it.
Right.
So you have to ring the bell, and then sometimes people get annoyed by it if you ring it a lot because no one comes to open it for you.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess they had the towel there, I'm assuming. And then it like started pouring, and it was really windy. I don't know. Like it felt like it was a windstorm. And I guess the door like flew open, and she like yelled. And then I was going to throw out a box, and the manager tried to open it. As soon as he opened it, the door went flying out.
What?
And it was like, I could see the direction the rain was coming in.
Oh,
And then I could see like the wind, like really
Rolling.
hard. Yeah.
nice.
And I think it was so hard that the concrete floor, so there's like this giant compactor for the
Mhm.
trash can, for the garbage.
Mm-hmm.
And the floor is usually like greasy or dirty. And it was
It
all
was
clean.
It was cleaned.
Yeah, like today you go and it's like all clean. It's like
Right.
they power washed it or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then yesterday it rained
Yeah.
for maybe like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
My mom was literally in here. She went out through the trash. As soon as she got to the trash can, it started raining really hard.
Yeah.
And I was trying to see where she was because I saw her here, and then out of nowhere I didn't see her. And I saw that it was raining really hard like 2 days ago. But it didn't last. It lasted like 5 or 6 minutes. And then it was sunny.
It was sunny
already.
again.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
don't know why
it's
this stuff happens here.
the weather here is just strange. But we did dive a little bit into our journey, talking about learning about religion and learn about talking about our opinions and our viewpoint on how we kind of were involved in religion for a while, trying to figure out what it all means and why we're following these, I guess, these rules from a Bible or a book that tells us to do things a certain way. And you went through your journey of trying to figure out and trying to learn more about what religion is about, if there is a God, and I guess going through different experiences trying to learn about it, and then you had your you were able to go through that retreat and then be able to go through an experience. So
Yeah,
go
I
ahead
mean,
and go
we
through
can
that
like
again.
talk a little bit more
Yeah.
because the last episode we recorded,
Right.
the audio got messed up and I didn't feel like it was good enough to put out. So we're gonna sort of summarize it a little bit or even talk about it again. But,
Yeah.
or talk about other stuff that we didn't get to last time.
Right. But I believe we started talking about Young Life. So
Yeah,
when-
Young Life is the Christian group.
right, the Christian group that I had experienced going through high school, and if I can remember, from sophomore year till senior year, I would go to meetings once a week, and they'll change periodically. But it started off usually on Monday nights, and then Wednesday nights, and then sometimes became different days. But for the most part, there was consistency in the fact that like we were going to the church across our high school. And would have meetings there, and I guess I remember talking about how I was invited to go, and I would go, and you were asking me what the atmosphere is like or how the whole thing is structured. So basically, after school, a couple kids and we call them leaders because they have been trained, but young life leaders. Usually would hang out with us for a couple of maybe like an hour or two, and then playing basketball, being outside, just having fun. And then so we would, after that, we'll all get called in to the one of the rooms in the church, and we'll all gather there, and everybody will just pretty much as possible get ready and gather and be quiet enough to begin our weekly session of talking about what we were experiencing in high school, how to approach solving some of our personal problems that we struggle with on a daily basis, through learning about what the Bible, in a sense, how to approach solving these problems using the Bible, pretty much.
Yeah. And I mean, while you were doing that, I wasn't really involved in religion during that time.
Mm-hmm.
It never like went past my mind at all. I don't know why. From when I was a little kid all the way until around the 18, 19-year-old, I didn't really think about religion as much, or had ideas about whether there was a God or it didn't exist or any of that stuff. I was just, I guess, moving along in life without questioning or even believing in something as much as other people did.
Right.
And I would see you guys do Young Life, and it never really interested me at all. It wasn't because it was based on religion. It was mostly because I just like being alone most of the time.
Right.
And I would just come back home, and then sometimes, like early on in high school, I would do my homework, but then later on I wouldn't as much. So
Right.
I would just come home and then chill or play video games, which was mainly the thing I did in high school.
Yeah, I mean,
And I still do now, but
right. I mean, I knew that. I think I remember now. I knew that was kind of like your personality and the way that you, like, I guess your life routine. You know what I mean? And you don't mind being alone, and you just don't mind spending time by yourself doing things because you find certain things interesting enough to be able to like be consumed by it enough to do it alone and not have to like, not like an escape, but like just try and enjoy something that you know how to do and keep getting better at it. Because I remember a couple of times maybe we would invite you, and then maybe you say you'd come or you didn't, and then maybe like Victor will ask me like, "Where's Mario?" I'm like, "I don't know, man. I think he's just
For Young
hanging
Life
out."
or
Yeah,
just hanging out?
for Young Life.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I'll
I
just
think
be,
I think I did get like invited by
yeah,
one of them or telling me to come, but I never would go.
yeah. I know. I remember. I
Yeah.
was like, I think he just wants to do his own thing,
Yeah.
and so I mean, apart from that, so I was thinking back now. I remember I was talking about how, and when I was going to those the sessions every week, I didn't really feel like I didn't have control in my life, and in a sense, seeking a way to control my life through something else. I honestly kept going to Young Life mainly because I was spending time with people that I love spending time with, and they were funny, and we get to just joke around, and we play tennis together with some of them, and so I didn't really mind hanging out, even if like we're talking about God or religion, and it wasn't something that I was always like searching for. I didn't mind just like hanging out with them because I would also most likely do my homework, and then
Yeah.
don't have anything to do for the rest of the day. So then I'm like, okay, well, they invited me, so I'll just go because I don't have any plans.
Yeah.
yeah.
And then I guess that's mainly one of the ways that these sort of religions groups attract more people.
Right.
And they create sort of a bond, friendship, or they make their little group that sort of knows each other already, has some sort of relation, and can build a closer bond by sharing their experiences or having sort of relate to other people's problems.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good thing, I think,
Mm-hmm.
that these religious groups can help people that probably weren't getting that stuff.
Right.
Have them that opportunity to maybe create new friends or talk to someone about their problems that they're having, and then maybe get some help, because not everyone probably gets help from others,
Mm-hmm.
or they don't know, or they don't trust certain people to tell their stuff.
Yeah.
But maybe once they create this bond, they feel comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
and then they share. And then most of the time, once you're already a long time doing that,
Right.
they might not judge you, or they know it's a religious thing. So if someone does judge you, they'll be looked down upon.
Right.
So there's no opportunity for you to feel like someone's sort of downplaying what your problems are.
Right.
And I mean, I guess, I don't know how many people Young Life has helped throughout the groups you went. I know you were talking about that it wasn't really helping you in any way because you weren't trying to figure out something in
Right.
general.
You know, I mean, yeah, I wasn't trying to figure out something general, but I didn't feel that I didn't feel like the issues that I had that some of the people would share, and some people would also feel the same way about struggling with certain things that they are doing that they didn't want to do. I didn't feel that I couldn't eventually get a better control of it and stop doing it. You know what I mean? And that relates to like sin. So like whenever we go and we talk, we talked a lot about deciding to do things in a certain way and understanding that how to relate to people, how to understand that doing these actions aren't really, as they would say, good in the eyes of God. You know what I mean? Like if you do this and you're doing that, that's not good because God's like, don't do that and stuff like that. And people would talk about the things they struggle with, and they'll talk about how they're trying to stop doing those things. And so then that's where we'll look in the Bible to find solutions for how they're going to approach stopping those behaviors that they didn't want to engage in, I guess. And then from there, once we read and we get a little more clarity on why maybe we behave this way or make these actions, and how we should try and forgive ourselves. And then usually after that, people would pray for somebody who would say they had like issues with something. You know what I mean? But then the part where it gets, where I didn't think it was, like we talk about how sometimes praying and stuff like that isn't enough, is that some of these people will talk about this problem that they have, and then we'll go through the scripture, and then we'll read about the scripture, and then we'll use the scripture as a solution or as a way to approach the solution, and we'll pray for them, and then we'll come back the next week, and then they have to still for the same problem. Not to say that certain things should be changing like immediately, but I didn't feel like people were really progressing in the way that they wanted things to progress in your life. I feel like people keep coming back and will have the same problems, and then what would happen is we'll go through the same routine, and then they'll pray for them, and then they'll go, and then like either like weeks will come by, and then maybe something would happen. But I'm not. And that's why I'm like, okay, so then something outside of that had to make the situation change. Because if
so
it was,
people were sharing multiple times the same thing.
People would just be
week.
like, yeah, I'm struggling with this. And then last week it's like, yeah, I'm still struggling with it. And then this week it's like, yeah, I'm still struggling with it. And then I'm like, okay, if you're still struggling with it, I don't think that the praying and the sharing is going to make a change in what you like, in this fact, like you want the situation to change. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so
I guess that person or people that were sharing multiple times, they probably were just hoping that the prayers are good enough.
Right.
And they never tried to find a solution for their own.
Right.
Or seek help from others, or I don't know how often the leaders interacted besides during that session time.
Mm-hmm.
If they continuously talk to you about the problems, and try to help you. I don't know.
And they do, but this is also where we had this conversation about if prayer works or not, and to what we talk about, like to what intensity should prayer be said between a large amount of people.
How much is enough of your belief or strength in that prayer to help it actually come true?
Right. I think that this conversation kind of brings me back to when I was talking about experiencing my mom being really sick, and she had gone through a lot of very, I guess, spiritual pathways to try and solve this problem, and then not quickly, but later we all realized that we didn't approach this. We shouldn't have approached it in a spiritual way. We should have just kept approaching it in a scientific way, because my mom is experiencing something physical with her body. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think that even for mental issues, there are like scientific solutions that have been presented to help that. So when somebody's saying that they're possessed or anything like that, there have been some kind of explanation that is scientifically based. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what my mom was going through, and how much I had believed in religion and in God, and in the fact that there might be somebody out there that is so powerful, and there are a lot of really sad and really a lot of bad things going on in the world. And like, if I'm making a request, not saying that like my prayer should be more important than anybody's, and that's even interesting thing to say, because if God is listening to everybody, and everybody, let's say like somebody, like if God is supposedly listening to everybody's prayer, and somebody's wishing a bad prayer, and then the other person is wishing a good prayer, is God gonna just listen to both people and grant their wishes? Or, you know what I mean, in a sense? But when my mom was sick, there was a moment in my life where I was like, okay, so my mom is going through something that I've never experienced before, and it's really sad, and it makes me feel emotional to see her in that much pain. And so I decided to approach it through religion and pray to God to hopefully not necessarily reveal a solution, but just to heal the solution. You know what I mean? There were too many nights where I couldn't sleep because my mom was in pain, because she's sick and her immune system is compromised and she developed asthma. And I honestly and truthfully thought that if I prayed and really believed, which I did because it's my mom, I want to believe that this prayer is going to work, and it didn't work. It was very disappointing. So from that moment, I started realizing that there are certain things that I should approach in a certain way, and then there's certain things I should approach in a different way. When it comes to everything that I go through in life, I think I should just keep approaching it in a way that like I can do physical things to make things change in the way that I want them to. I can't depend on prayer. I can't depend on going to church. I can't depend on reading the Bible, because it hasn't really worked for me in a way that I want to see it happen for me. And I think for a lot of people, they feel that way too, but maybe they're just too, not say consumed, but they've gone through so much of their life in a way that it's kind of difficult to even step away from religion. You know what I mean? Because I was going to church consistently for 14 years. And then when I came to Ohio and moved over here, I went to church here and there. But then when I got to pretty much senior year of high school, I stopped going to church. And then when I got to college, then I really just stopped going to church. And then after graduation from college, I just kept going. And I haven't felt any sense of regret for from stopping going to church. I haven't really felt like I'm missing out on anything. I don't feel guilty about it, and I think that way I approach it is really good too, because I don't like the sense of feeling that if you don't go to church, then like I guess your life is not really complete. You know what I mean?
Or you feel like you're not being the right person or not doing the right thing,
right,
in the eyes of God.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so I mean the prayer thing we talked about last time, I pretty much had a similar, I guess, experience that I talked about, where one of the only times that I actually prayed for something in general was when I was going to the Bible classes. And the second time I tried it, because I originally did it the first time and then sort of stepped away from it from a good time, so I basically didn't remember much, so I had to relearn everything once I joined back. But this time I wanted to be like full committed, because I felt like I was bringing in thoughts that were sort of contradicting with the Catholic religion. So once I committed, I basically prayed, or I try to pray as much as possible. Mainly the most times that I prayed was when we were actually at the Bible class, because at the beginning you would always start with a prayer and then end with prayer. And then my last sort of prayer was to get some sort of sign that God wants me to follow this path, this certain path, and not go back to the thoughts that I had. And that was before I was going to a retreat in California, which was basically a retreat where most people go and sort of abandon their old life and start a new life with God. Whether it's to just be sort of like a leader in young life, teach other sort of young people, or even adults. And then if you wanted to stay longer, you could either become a nun or sister, or become a priest or a deacon, or any sort of that sort of hierarchy into the church.
Right.
But coming to the final day, I never saw anything or had a realization of anything spiritually in a dream or sort of within my mind, as most of the time you were alone and thinking within yourself or talking with God, I guess. And I never saw any of that. At the end of the day, as I was leaving, I didn't have a regret or felt like I was doing something wrong. When I got here back home and I came into my room, I felt weird just being here. I guess because I wasn't here for a long time, and I stepped away from the technology, or I wasn't sleeping in a nice bed, or sometimes one night I slept on the floor, I think, and I just felt weird being here. I don't know if it was for leaving or just not being here for a long time, but I didn't feel regret just not staying there and abandoning the life that I have right now. And then later on, I just step away from the Bible classes in general. As for church, I don't go right now, but my parents are very religious, and they started to become religious sort of in the past like 3 or 4 years. And everyone has done their sacraments and stuff like that and fully believe. And I guess they pray and certain stuff comes or has sort of changed in their life. And so I guess their belief becomes stronger. So they kind of forced me to go to Sunday school, not Sunday school, just church on Sundays. And that happened before the quarantine. I requested off Sundays at work. And then I started going there just out of respect because I live with my parents. If they want me to go, I sort of just do what they tell me.
Right, do it for the sake of the fact that this is something that you could do for them that they're asking you to do.
Yeah, and they don't ask me to do much
right.
in general, so I guess you were in that similar situation when you first came here. And they would ask you and you would go. What else are you going to do? Or
right.
Just stay here?
It's a Sunday morning and I'm a teenager and I would love to sleep in, but I've got to wake up and...
It was out of respect, really.
Yeah.
Respect for them. And I would go, and I already have my sacraments, and there's communion, which basically at some point in Mass you go up and then receive the body and blood of Christ.
Right,
Even if I have that sacrament, I don't go up because I don't believe in the whole idea of the Catholic, of the Catholic religion. So out of respect, because I respect the idea and the people's belief about the church and the whole Mass,
right,
and how important communion is, I just don't go up there out of respect for them. And if that God actually exists, respect him, because I'm not fully committed to this, and I've probably sinned in having confessed, which you need to confess to actually do the communion. So I don't go up, and that's what I've been doing basically with religion.
But you don't feel any guilt about it. It has no impact in your, I guess, your self-esteem even about yourself. You know
if I see like all those people come or that get up from their benches and go up front, I don't feel like why can't I go up there, or maybe I should go back and do the right thing, and so I can go up there and receive the body of Christ. I don't feel any of that. The actions that I do or the thoughts I have in mind are just respectful thoughts towards this religion. Right. Even if I don't believe in the ideas, I just respect it. And then once it's over, it's over. Mm-hmm. And then once the next Mass comes, I basically do the same thing. Right. And during the quarantine, churches were closed. So and we couldn't, like the first few weeks, some priests, actually the priest that was in that church, they like live streamed it or recorded it. I don't know how they did it, but it ended up on YouTube, so people could actually watch and listen to the Mass. And my parents were downstairs, and they were sitting there watching, and it just felt weird just being there. If I like walked by, went to the kitchen, and then if I would come back to the living room, or should I stay or go back up?
Right.
Because I don't know if they were thinking thinking it was Mass, or they were just watching the Mass.
Right.
So I couldn't distinguish whether they were actually because at some point, certain points during the Mass, you get up and then you sit back down. And at one point I saw my mom, she stood up. So I was like, is she actually doing the procedures or... Maybe
She
she just
needs-
got up coincidentally.
Need to
So,
stretch real quick.
yeah, so I got confused. But after that, after those like 2-3 weeks, I didn't see him watch it anymore. And that happens with everyone, I think.
Yeah.
Even as much as of a religious person you are, you always make these mistakes that humans make.
Mm-hmm.
You're always going to make mistakes because no one's perfect. Sometimes you might forget to go to church, or maybe you don't feel like going that day. And I guess they didn't feel like watching it, or it didn't feel the same.
Right.
So they opened church back up, I think, a month ago. And my parents haven't said anything about it. And I think they go, and it's a completely different environment, I think. Things have changed, but I haven't gone yet, and mainly because I've been working, and I don't feel like it's a necessity for me to go right now.
Right.
Or in general, and because I can just be working. And
Right. I mean, and that's even for the fact that like I don't go to church and I don't want to go to church. When I teach tennis, like Sundays, like in the winter and spring, are the days where I teach the most lessons, and I'm able to actually have an actual feeling of a work day. And so even right there, not to say that like my life is surrounded by just chasing money. I have like certain expenses that I have to pay for, and I'm also really enjoy teaching tennis, and this is one of the days where I really kind of like dissect and analyze and keep throwing solutions to people that I'm working with, and that's when I usually feel like I'm really teaching tennis in the experience of like being an instructor. Like I spend a whole day and I have different people come in every day, and they are at different levels, and I have to work with them and teach them. And pretty much every person that's coming in, because of their different level, we're working on something a little bit different every day, every time they come. And I really enjoy just like being there all day and teaching tennis, and I wouldn't honestly just give that up just to go to church, because it would be like a waste to me. Because because of how much I can learn and do certain things and be able to like improve somebody's interest in something that is like I can see it happening and it's real. You know what I mean? The fact that like people just want to get better at something, I want to be able to spend time doing that more than keep like searching for something that first of all I didn't really want, and then it's just been really difficult to try and grasp it. So honestly, I've been, and I talk about this frequently, but I've just been enjoying life, trying to understand how to live in the moment, and enjoying and understanding how to control or recognize certain things that I can control, and then learn more about how my mind works, how my body works, and just try and put myself in a better position, I guess, than most people around my age would, mentally and physically. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people around our age probably spending a lot of time and money on things that they don't truthfully like enjoy doing. I think a lot of people are missing out in life because they're too consumed by social media, which a lot of people know about. You know what I mean? I don't spend that much time on social media, and I love that I don't do that, because it makes me realize how much I enjoy experiencing life in general without looking at a screen. You know what I mean? And then I know you can relate to that too, because we both don't spend that much time on a screen. Like when I'm working on a tennis court, my phone's away, and I just enjoy the fact that like I'm hitting a tennis ball for hours every day.
yeah, even like at work, there's people that as soon as they get a chance, they pull out the phone and get on it. And I don't really do that. After work, I do occasionally check it, or if I'm not doing anything, then I sort of go into YouTube, which I basically spend my time on when I'm not doing anything else. And time just flies by, even if you're just watching like 10-minute videos or maybe like 3 minutes. But once you watch maybe like 20 or 30 videos, like the whole day just passes by.
Yeah.
But I know that I can stop or control the amount I look at it
Mm-hmm.
because I've done that 1 year without social media,
Right.
which I don't think a lot of people would be able to do it.
Yeah.
And
It's
yeah,
extremely difficult in a world where people are always looking to communicate with you, and sometimes communicate with you not through like text messages or calling you. They just want to reach out to you through Snapchat, or like they want to interact with you on Facebook or something that you post on Instagram and share it with you, or things that are like funny and interact with you like that.
yeah, or even if you don't want to talk to a specific person, if you're a person that likes to share their life, and maybe you're doing something exciting and you can't put it up anywhere,
Right.
so maybe you got a new car and you want to brag or something like that, or you got a new outfit and you want to share it. It's going to be hard if you have that mentality
Right.
to step away from social media, because every time you upload maybe a picture and you get 100 likes or even more, then you get a satisfaction. So it's
like,
going to be hard.
This amount of people stopped, looked at my image, and then clicked on it, so they must care about
Yeah.
the fact that like I posted this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so it brings them back to the social medias, and they don't have a reason really to leave it.
Right.
And they get consumed by it. As you were mentioning, people don't probably spend their money wisely. There's a lot of these brands that are very popular, like Gucci and Supreme and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And people want to look good for other people.
Right.
When it's not really a necessity.
Yeah.
I like to dress well. And then, I mean, I see the stuff and they look pretty cool, but they're like $1,000 at least.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be spending money on that, because I could probably invest it somewhere or just save it if in case
Yeah.
like a pandemic comes up.
Yeah.
You already spent the money on these shoes, these clothes,
Yeah.
and then the pandemic hits and you don't got money to pay rent
Right.
and are complaining.
Right.
So sometimes I guess religion can come into play there, because a lot of people want to probably change and think that if they go into a religion or go into this group, they're going to get that change, even if it might not happen.
Right.
Or sometimes it does, but maybe because you just change your mentality in some way. And that's why I have sort of conflicting views of religion, because at one point I see it as sometime like a scheme or a cult like type, where this one figurehead is up top and basically telling you what to do. Or as I would see during mass, everyone would get up as soon as at the same time, sit back down, or repeat this phrase all in one voice, sort of like zombies or the mindless beings.
Right, in unison.
Yeah. Or it wasn't mainly in unison, but the act of just repeating the same thing each week. And it was basically like sort of this leader or this person controlling your actions, the things you say, and maybe the thoughts that you're having
About yourself, about how you're going to handle the situation that you're going through.
Yeah. And even like the offering, or I don't know how you would call it.
Yeah, it's offering.
Yeah. Where they would come with the basket and then you give the money.
Right.
And so there's some people who abuse that or misuse the money, or sort of like a lot of money coming in.
Yeah, I mean,
and sort of lie sometimes. I saw or I heard this thing of a pastor, or I don't know what you would call it. He was saying that even if the churches are closed, you have to send in your offerings. You have to find a way, come, drop it off, and then go back home.
For like because they don't have access to the church anymore, but there's still the understanding that you should be still paying offering. Even during the pandemic, where most people are probably either just like losing completely their job, and you're going to be giving away money because you want more money back later.
Yeah, and well, they sort of these the leaders.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna phrase it as leaders
Right.
because there's priests, pastors, and then I
Right.
guess these other people or other names in other religions, but they sort of scare these people into making them send the offering because it says in the Bible that you should give
Right.
an offering or something.
Right.
And so they use that, and if it's someone that's very religious, which is mostly old people,
Mm-hmm.
they think that they need to do it because, or else God is going to get angry, and
Right.
it's in struggling times. So maybe you want blessings from God.
Right.
So you sort of believe this leader and then go and give your offerings
Yeah.
when he's just wanting the money and probably doesn't believe in that stuff or just uses it to obtain something,
Yeah.
which that sort of aspect of religion I don't like.
Mm-hmm.
But the ones that I do like, and I mentioned earlier about creating bonds
Mm-hmm.
with other people,
Yeah.
it creates, for some reason, it changes the way people think or act. I've seen like many people that go to other, like maybe Jehovah's Witness or something like that,
Oh, interesting.
and they start to not go to parties and stuff like that because you're not allowed to have parties or celebrate your birthday and stuff like that.
Yeah, the birthday thing.
Yeah, and they sort of distance themselves from other people that they used to hang out with. And they hang out with these other people, and they change their mentality of viewing things. I don't know if it's just to fit in, or if they actually change their way of thinking. But I never understood how religion could achieve that for people. But I like that aspect because if someone's bad and then they change to something good, which I mean I've experienced with my mom. She used to be like very aggressive and sort of mean
Mm-hmm.
with other people and would do bad stuff. Not like kill or stuff like that, but sometimes she would be a little more violent, and her temper was really like short.
Mm-hmm.
Like she couldn't really control it. But as soon as she started getting back into church and going to these Bible classes, she's changed her attitude. And I've seen it personally. She doesn't get mad easily anymore. She pretty much loves everyone. If they do bad stuff to her, she doesn't hold grudges or try to get revenge. She continues to help these people, even if they don't help her back or if they do bad stuff.
Right.
And I think that's something good that religion is
Right.
able to do.
No, I
But-
totally agree, because I can always remember and say that there are certain things that I learned through reading the Bible and how to approach living life in a certain way. But then I reflected a little bit on understanding that some of the things that I adopted from the Bible in the way that I want to approach living in life and being a good person, a part of me feels like even if I didn't read those things from the Bible, I would be able to understand how not to do certain things that were bad, because I can understand how to reason and look at a situation and decide if I take this action and then consider what is the person's reaction from my action. Is it going to be good or bad? And if I do something and act in a certain way and the person responds in a way that they didn't like what I did, and then I think that is a very simple way of knowing how to judge whether you're doing something good or bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I have that similar view where I never really thought that this book is what's telling me whether I do something or not. I basically judge it on my own, and I know what the right thing to do is. And I know what things are bad and what things are not. And a lot of people just follow what's in the Bible and make their views or opinions based on only that.
Right.
And not from other experiences.
Right.
Or from learning from other types of people.
Right.
They just base it on this one book that
Yeah.
has a lot of chapters and a lot of wording where it can contradict itself. Or maybe in the Old Testament it talks about something, then in the New Testament it just talks about the opposite thing. When
Right.
literally a few chapters you were talking
Right.
about doing something.
Right. And then
And-
this honestly kind of reminds me of our conversation we had I'm trying to record in the last one about how when you try and reason through certain actions that were in certain scenarios and certain stories that took place in the Bible, and how there is some kind of justified reasoning for the death of certain groups of people in the Bible that just die.
Yeah, even if they were bad people, but in the eyes of this religion or in all religions, God is a loving person that loves everyone,
right,
and doesn't judge people.
right.
So you kind of get confused, or
Right. It's a very confusing understanding, especially when we use that example of talking about Samson in the Bible, and how he gains his strength. Right. He gains his strength from his hair on his hair, and I guess the longer the length of his hair, the stronger he is, in a sense.
So
Or no.
what I know is that before he was born, the mom got a vision from God, or God came down and talked to her, I don't know how, and basically said that the son that she was gonna have was gonna be gifted, and that she should never cut his hair, because that's where he lies, I guess, his strength.
Mm-hmm.
So she basically followed what God told her, and as he was growing up, never cut his hair. And I guess he had like 7 braids.
Yeah.
Which 7 is, I guess, like the perfect number in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
So as he's growing up, I mean, he gets his own ideas and opinions of stuff. So once he's older, he just starts abusing his power.
Right.
And killing these people, and like stealing their stuff or their goods, or even like stealing like girls.
Right.
So he got very obsessed with that stuff. And with that obsession, he basically was defying God's word.
Right.
But even further, he sort of got complacent or too confident with the girl that he was with.
Delilah.
And yeah, and she was always, I think maybe 3 or 4 times she asked him like, where is your strength coming from? And he would lie.
Right.
But I felt like he was sort of blinded in that instance, because if I was him, I would see like, why are you questioning so many times? And each time you question me, these guys come and attack me and do what I just told you.
Right.
That was my weakness.
Right.
So I guess he was just blinded in that moment. I don't know for what reason. But in the end, his braids get cut off and he loses his power. And he can't fight off these guys. And then he goes to prison.
Yeah, and then he's blinded.
Yeah. But then these other guys, I don't know what's wrong with them. They somehow let his hair grow back.
Right.
They probably cut it a few times, but then I guess he just
for the
forgot,
purpose
or I don't
of
know.
writing a story and understanding that this is how it kind of goes through, and then this character gets captured, and then he's able to get out of the situation. And then just like understanding the way like a story can be written for you to just like enjoy the end of the story. Why is it that these people knew very clearly that he gets his strength from his hair, and give him the opportunity for his hair to grow, and then, you know what I mean, they go through a situation
like, you know, his weakness. Why are you letting him get his strength back? Why are you letting his hair grow back when you know if he has no hair,
right,
he has no strength?
Right. It's
but
almost,
for some reason, he gets his hair grown, and he gets his, not all of his strength, I don't think, at that point, but he was stronger than normal. So he basically escapes, and he
knocks down the temple.
Yeah, he goes up to, they were having like a meeting, or I guess mass, or I don't know. But they weren't in the same religion. They were other religions. And he basically prays. And as you were mentioning, whether God listens to the bad prayers from other people, I felt like this was a bad prayer.
Right.
He basically asked for his power back so he could do this last act and taking down the temple where all these people are. You don't know if they're adults or kids.
Right.
Even innocent people. They're not bad. Maybe they just don't believe in your religion.
Right.
But just because of that, they're bad, and they should deserve to die for some reason.
Right.
So he prays to God and asks for his strength back, and God listens to him in that moment.
Right.
He forgives him. I don't know how he gauges Samson's
prayer
strength and belief.
Strength and belief.
Yeah. In order to give him back his power and allow him to actually tear down the temple and kill thousands of people, I think.
Right.
So, in that aspect, you question why God allows these people to commit actions that are not good in our times.
Right.
Because if someone prays for, I don't know, strength to, or maybe prays for something bad to happen to a group of
people,
kids,
yeah.
or a group of people that are maybe in this parade, or in these times they're protesting.
Yeah. Or
And
gathering.
if someone, these gatherings. And if someone prays for all of these people to just die out of nowhere, I don't think God right now would do that.
Right.
But why in that instance is he more of a reckless person, a
Right.
reckless God
Right.
that allows other people to commit bad sins, and he himself also kills people, as we talked also about the Sodom and Gomorrah. I
Yeah,
think.
Sodom and Gomorrah, and learning about, and I always remember reading this at church, and maybe like Bible study, about learning that these group of people live here, and for some reason all these people get burned, or
Yeah, I think they get
does he
burned.
send fire?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
I think
So he sends fire to this community of people who just, I guess, enjoy sexual pleasure and being and engaging in sexual activity. And
Mhm.
so then he's like, okay, well, it's in the Bible, I guess, that I've asked these people to write about. It's not good to be engaging in certain activities like that. So we're going to wipe down all these people. And you talked to me about how he had sent somebody into the town to keep going back and forth to find somebody that,
Well, actually, God himself goes.
oh, God himself goes.
Yeah. The guy tells him God tells this guy,
Right.
I don't know his name, but he tells him, if I go into this town and if I find the certain amount of people that are good, I won't kill them all.
Right.
And then each time he goes back and says, well, I didn't find these people. And then the person tells him, can you lower the number? And it just goes back and forth, and they lower it all the way until 1. So
Right.
God says, if I just find one single person that's good, I won't burn this town. And he doesn't find anyone, and he burns the town.
Right. Right. And so, in a sense, this is where we start questioning certain things that we've learned about religion, and we've learned about how God approached handling certain situations, and how, I guess, in our real life right now, in this moment, that would not be an acceptable thing to be able to think that it's reasonable to happen.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, you can find a lot of things in the Bible that are really weird. And if you look and see, based on how times are right now, and if those things would happen, everyone would be questioning it.
Yeah.
But since it's stuff from the Old Testament,
Right.
and a lot of people sort of dismiss the Old Testament and the ideologies and mainly focus on New Testament, nobody really brings up those issues or questions them. They just sort of talk about it and say, oh, well, I mean, if they were doing the bad thing, then yeah, I guess they deserve a punishment, or they don't deserve life, basically.
Right. Right.
But they it just flies past them. They don't really think it through. They just see the sort of broad
Yeah.
lesson that is taught,
Yeah.
and then they move on.
Right.
They don't have time to really dive in and sort of analyze it completely.
Analyze it, or even maybe like not well, even understand, like, after analyzing and seeing if maybe this is like the best way to approach killing all these people. I mean, I think that in the sense of understanding that if there's a God and he's incredibly smart and powerful, I'm not sure why it was that difficult for him to not be able to handle a situation where, for example, these people that didn't believe in him about Samson, those people got wiped out. And then all these people that were doing bad sexual stuff in their little town, why can't he just step in and intervene and be able to like handle that situation? especially because he's more powerful than anybody else to our understanding. I think that if I was a god, I probably wouldn't give some my responsibilities to a human being, knowing that said that human beings have flaws and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and as I try to remember, because we talked about this in the Bible classes that I took, mainly the lesson you get out of it is that God loves us a lot and seek to the lowest amount of goodness in someone and not kill you.
Right.
But I mean, he doesn't even go to as low as 0.
Right.
So it's very contradicting there. Like,
Yeah,
he
very.
loves us so much that it gives us a chance all the way until 1, but he doesn't love us enough to go to 0.
Right.
And as you were saying, there's a lot of stuff that someone can do differently. But as I was doing the Bible class, I always thought to myself, I mean, an answer that they pretty much give you is, well, God is God and he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah. I can't be satisfied with an answer like that when people try and justify suffering in the world. Considering how much we've learned more about like the dynamic of a society, the dynamic of like where more of the money is in society and less of it, and how that really creates a structure where people are not living a certain lifestyle and then certain people are living a very different perspective on life. You know what I mean? I think that it's just like with our understanding of how governments are created, societies are created, I don't think it's acceptable for people to be going through all these suffering and then the answer would be it's happening because God wants it to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
I always never really liked that. I've seen it plenty of times on social media where people say God does these things for a reason.
Right.
I mean, like, why would he do the bad stuff? Like,
right.
Why would he give you this bad moment when he could pretty much give you a good life?
Right.
And not have these struggles that you're going through. But it's good that they see, it's sort of optimistic, I guess.
Yeah.
If you're going through these struggles and these struggles teach you something.
Right. And I mean,
then they use the phrase, well, God does these things for a reason.
Right.
But
they're for sure, like when
in that instance, it's understandable. But when there's mass killings of people,
right,
or certain groups being attacked, or other people suffering in poverty for years, and nothing good happening to them, that's not something that happens for a reason.
Right. That's not
just things that happen that are bad and never end up being good.
Right. Because certain people have not established the understanding that we should be trying to live in a world where we try and create an environment where people can live freely in peace. Most people are very driven by their greed and their pride, and they have this feeling of being more important than somebody else. And so then, even if they're in a position to change somebody's life, they already have this feeling of being so important that sometimes they don't even understand that they're human and they could just pass away and die and turn into dust.
Yeah, and they just focus on their life in that moment. And it feels sort of like bragging.
Right.
Almost. You're bragging that you went through the struggle and that God has helped you achieve this. And then maybe someone looks at it, maybe like maybe at that moment you were praying for something.
Right.
And you see this guy talking about this, but you're not seeing it in your own life.
Right.
So you're like, what, is this guy better than me or something?
Right. So if like, exactly. And I think people always talk about how they thank God for a lot of things that have changed in their life. And I think that if we could take God out of a lot of their actions that they took, they'll still be able to be in the position that they went through, to probably are in, and that they're thanking God for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you really like break down at what certain levels or stages in your life where you took these actions to change your life, and then now your life is as satisfying as you want it to be, and you're thanking God. if you're thanking God, that's great. But are you also, I mean, putting too much? I guess the more reality is that you feel that you couldn't go through this without God. You know what I mean? There are a lot of things
Yeah.
that I've intentionally tried to figure out for myself in my life that I feel like it was going to be really hard. And so as a young age, whenever I was going to do something that was difficult, I would pray. And then hopefully that this difficult situation will not be so difficult. And so I did that for a while. And then I realized that there are certain times that I didn't pray and I went to go do these things and I was still able to do it. So then I was like, so why do I didn't pray these times and then I was still able to do it. And then I prayed these times and I still was able to do it. But what I remember more is because I did these things, I was able to do this thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then I started, honestly, I started experimenting with like belief and experimenting with prayer and experimenting with understanding that like I'm about to go through something that is going to be really difficult and I don't know how I'm going to go through it, but I'm not going to pray about it. I'm just going to go through it and see if I'm going to be able to go through it and come out fine, or if I pray and then go through it, I'll come out fine. And there are so many times where I just like, I'm just going to do it without praying, and things just like either worked out really well or I didn't feel any sense of like, if it didn't work out well, like I failed. You know what I mean? I feel like things just like I wanted to do something and then I did it and then this happened. And it just seems pretty clear to me at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally get you, because that's basically what I was thinking as well. Because I never prayed for anything or asked for anything or asked for others. In my life, I just thought that I would just do these things on my own. If God didn't want to help me or he did want to help me, I never asked him to.
Right.
So I just kept on doing my things. If bad stuff happened to me, it happened, you know. You just keep going.
Yeah.
If something good happens to me, then, I mean, that's good. You know,
Right.
enjoy the moment that's happening and then just keep going on.
Right.
I never really used the phrase "thank God" for something.
Right.
Not even
And even if I do it unconsciously, sometimes I do it, when I do it unconsciously, I'm like, oh wait, am I really thanking God for something like this? Because I don't feel that, I didn't feel any of the, I guess, the intervening of him coming into the situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess when you're saying it like that, or when it comes out just naturally, it's probably because you've heard it frequently.
Yeah.
And it loses the value of actually thanking God. It just becomes a regular phrase.
Right.
Or like, oh my God.
Right.
Like, you're not actually saying, talking to God, or
right.
referring to God. You're just actually using the phrase that's used by
In reaction.
a lot of people.
Yeah,
as a
to the
reaction to a situation.
Yeah.
But I mainly use thank goodness.
Yeah.
That's what I use.
Yeah.
But it also refers to God, because
Right.
it's the phrase good and God. It kind of sounds similar.
Right.
But I never used God. And I mean, I've thanked the people that actually did stuff or helped me achieve something.
Mm-hmm.
Or I thank myself.
Yeah. I just pat myself in the back. Hey, good job.
Give
man.
yourself a pat in the back.
Yeah.
If you do something good, and then move along. And like things that have happened that are bad or we would consider bad, I never asked to myself, like, why is God doing this to me?
Right.
Never in my life did that. I just said, I mean, this thing is happening, and if it affects me in some way that I become weaker or struggle more, I don't really care.
Right.
But if it helps me grow, that's really good. And that's basically how I've been looking at my life, really.
Right.
I'm just moving along. I never, complain.
Right.
I never complain about anything.
I think even for me about the complaining thing, my attitude towards making sure I don't complain is because I know where I come from and how my life was before I came here. And so the things that I have found myself complaining about, I just think that something that I'm complaining about is not really that difficult to, it's not that I'm not really in the most difficult situation that I think I am in. You know what I mean? Compared to somebody who's somewhere else in a different country, who's probably, either going through like hunger or something like that.
Yeah, and I saw this video like a couple times before. I don't know if you've seen it. It's sort of like a cartoon or animated little clip where it's basically like a guy in a helicopter or a jet, or I don't know, and this guy in a car, a nice car, like a Lamborghini or something like that, says to himself, I wish I could have that and not be in just this car. And then to the side of him is a guy that has a car, but it's not as good, and
Right.
says, oh, I wish I had a car
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
And then it goes back, and then it's a guy like on a bus or something like that,
Right.
and says, oh, I wish I had a car. And then, or it was a bike, I don't know, a guy on a bike and saying, oh, I wish I had a car that I could travel. And then the last guy is a guy in a wheelchair and says, oh, I wish I was able to use my legs to
Right.
ride the bike.
Exactly.
So all these complaints, I mean, I'm not saying that you shouldn't complain, but you should always look back and see the things that you have and then compare it to what others might not have,
Right.
and sort of gauge it and see if whether it's really okay to complain or if you're just doing it just because you want to
Right.
see if someone is gonna be feeling bad for you.
Right.
But people should always just look back and compare it to other people,
Mhm.
or see the struggles that other people are having, because I do that all the time, which basically is why I don't complain that much with anything that happens, because I know that there's people out there that are
Going through
worse things, yeah, that don't have probably don't have parents,
Right.
are struggling, or they don't have any chance like to obtain water at all.
Right. Or
So-
electricity or Wi-Fi.
Yeah, or any of this stuff. Like, these are luxuries. I live in a townhome, and I mean, it's not the best thing, but I never complain about it.
Right.
I've been living here like 7-8 years,
Yeah.
and I'm not complaining. Or if I see someone saying that they're buying a house, I never complain like, why can't I have a house?
Right.
Or why am I not able to move to a better spot or location,
Right.
or stuff like that? Because as soon as I walk into my room, I see the stuff I have,
Yeah.
and I'm like, there's really no reason to complain.
Right.
I have the necessities. That's important. These things that I have, like the TV and then the monitors or the games, those are just extra things that come into life
Right.
and that I'm able to obtain, and not sort of things that I deserved.
Right.
They were just things that I got.
Right.
And I mean, I always think about these kids that are in these poor areas around the world,
Mm-hmm.
and always wonder to myself, like, why is God letting them? If there is a God, why are you letting these poor kids suffering through this? They probably don't even grow up to be an adult and
Right.
experience life completely, just because they aren't able to obtain nutrition
Right.
or good home living or habitat.
Right.
I don't know if that's relatable.
Right. Right. No,
but,
habitat, like a place to dwell.
Yeah.
To grow up in.
Yeah,
know what I mean?
and their life gets cut short, and they suffer through the little short life that they had.
Right.
And if there is no afterlife, then why go through that suffering?
Right. It's a lot of this is very contradictory, and questions like these, I think a lot of people don't ask these questions enough. And they just accept that life is what it is because God wants it to be that way. And even though they have this like feeling that the things that are happening in other parts of the world are really bad, and they want to be able to do something about it, but they don't. They just settle with the fact that like they could pray. And
Yeah.
then things
Or
will get better.
sometimes, where you mentioned in the last recording, was that these people, maybe they want to do something else, something different,
Right.
to help these people, but it goes in the viewpoint of doing something against God.
Right.
So they don't do it because they want to do the right thing
Right.
and be obedient,
In the eyes of
and
God.
not commit these sins.
Right.
But I say just go for it. Like, it doesn't matter if it's a sin or not. Just do what you think is right.
Right.
And if you're able to help these people, then help
them out, right?
Yeah, and not just do the prayer thing that you were saying, because in reality, that stuff doesn't really work with things that are physically needing.
Right.
Maybe it might help you, sort of like in my mom's case, spiritually, because I think she probably had some sort of negative sort of mindset,
right,
and maybe it changed it to something more positive, and that helped her.
Right.
But if she needed something like, maybe she broke her arm or something, or has an injury, and she has like an injury and it's always bothering her, like a prayer is not gonna help heal it, because it's been going on for years. If you know like a specialist or something like that is able to find a treatment for that kind of stuff, then that's a better option, I think, instead of sort of falsely giving optimism to somebody when they're not going to actually get anything.
Right. Exactly. No, this kind of just reminds me of I think one of my opinions and approach to religion. I think that people should go to religion when they want to, versus religion coming to them. You know what I mean? Because I feel like, and this kind of talks about, this is when you talk a little bit about how you learn about the chemicals that are released in your brain when you're experiencing death, or you're when you're dead, or you're experiencing near death. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that those things in those chemicals, and you can go into that a little bit after I talk about this, but in a sense, I've always felt like people who really benefit or would benefit from religion usually go to religion when they actually need to go to religion, when they're struggling with something kind of spiritual and understanding the world. I feel like religion has been in a sense where people are going out to find people that want to believe in religion, versus I feel like a lot of people know about religion. You know what I mean? And so if you're struggling and you would like to approach solving your life through religion, then you should feel like you can go, versus like people coming to you all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That happens a lot. Like the Catholics, they don't really bother you as much.
Right.
But the other sort of sects that are part of under the Christianity,
right,
they sort of hunt you down.
Right.
Or I've seen, I don't know if they're Mormons or what kind, but they're always in pairs. They got the white button up.
So those
sleeve.
are more of the on a bike, or no?
Yeah, they're usually on the bike.
Okay, so those are more of the Jehovah Witnesses. I know that because my grandfather is one of my grandfathers is a Jehovah Witness, and so I actually did go and yeah.
Wait, did you wear that outfit?
I would wear. It's not necessarily an outfit. It's more like a formal. And the dress code is more on the formality side. So suits and button-down shirts with ties and nice khakis or actual dress pants with actual shoes. And it was really strange because for me, like my grandfather and he's still alive. I would go and I'll spend time with him. And I remember when I was young, he would talk to me about Jehovah Witnesses and what they believe in. And that's why I've discovered the whole thing about birthdays. And I honestly have adopted that, I guess, that approach to birthdays. I had learned that it's something that they don't really find that important to celebrate about, in a sense. And for a while, I started doing that, and I still do this, and my mentality has changed on it a little bit. But I've never felt like if somebody didn't wish me a birthday, that like they didn't like me, and I think that people feel that way when it happens, and I'm just like, so are you like kind of completely dismissing all the experiences you've had with this person, whether they've been really good to you all these times, and maybe they just forget that today was your birthday and they didn't wish you a birthday? Are you just gonna just like dismiss all that stuff and all those experiences you've had with them? And I'd be like, well, you didn't wish me a birthday on my birthday, so I guess we're not real friends. You know what I mean? I can't feel like I don't have that feeling when somebody doesn't wish me a birthday, because I know it's my birthday. Like that's what it matters to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
it's only mine.
It's only mine.
Yours.
It's mine and not yours. And so I've had friends who would like debate with me about like trying to make me do something on my birthday, or like
Oh, okay.
really doing something on my birthday.
Yeah.
After I've told them like I don't do anything on my birthday. Like through high school, every time I had a birthday, I was like, it was like a normal day for me. It was like just another day for me. And I've always felt that way about my birthday, whatever day it is. I haven't really never like had a birthday where I was like, this is the year where I want to throw a party. Like I want to just like get all these people around. Because I think that for me, I want to just experience life with these people all the time. I don't want it to be like one day out of the year where everybody has to stop all they're doing and then just like really focus on me. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And I don't really like that much attention in the first place when it comes to something like that. But also it's just like I've just like heard people just genuinely feeling bad because they didn't wish somebody like a happy birthday, and then it's just like part of me is just like I don't think it's that for some people it's that big of a deal, and then I've started to understand it more because I have friends who feel that the other way about it. You know what I mean? And so we'll go back and forth, and they're like, "No, you should do something on your birthday," and I'm like, "But I really don't care, like
Yeah.
at all, if I do something or not." But you're really putting too much emphasis on the fact that like I should do something because it's my birthday. But then I'm just like, but it's my birthday. So like I kind of want to, and this is like, and I never really thought like I should handle my birthday in a different way because I just enjoyed living life and just having like a regular day all the time.
Mm.
I don't know, maybe one day I'm like, maybe when I'm like 70 or 80, I'm like, all right, let's throw down this big
Throw the
party.
50-year-old party.
Yeah, through a 50-year-old party, maybe. But like, ever since I was young, like, if I didn't get a card for my birthday or anything like that, I never was the kid I was like would be sad because I didn't get a birthday card.
Yeah, I assumed you weren't, I guess, picky about that stuff, like
Yeah.
receiving something for a special occasion.
Yeah.
Because I remember we would get break, right? That would lead into Christmas.
Yeah,
And so once everyone came back,
yeah,
everyone would have these new shoes,
yeah,
new clothes,
yeah.
and like everyone would talk about what they got. And I remember your dad gave you books.
Well, yeah, he gave me what?
He gave you a book, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but all of us found it really funny that you got
And a book for Christmas. Yeah. I mean, my dad's
But
like,
I don't think it was for Christmas, right?
Oh.
I think, or was it for just
I don't
Christmas?
remember, man.
No, it was a Christmas, but I don't think I wasn't sure if he gave it to you because of Christmas,
Okay.
or he gave it to you.
But it
just
was,
to give it to you.
but it was for sure after, I guess, the holidays.
Yeah,
And everybody came back to school, and I guess this is something that's kind of, I guess it's a culture shock because like back in Ghana, like we're going to school whether it's holidays or not. I guess I don't necessarily receive like gifts for like holidays.
yeah,
My dad has always told me if I want anything I should just ask him, and if I need it he'll get it from me. And we've had a conversation about knowing the difference between something that you need and something that you want.
mm.
You know what I mean? Like, for example, like I need to have a good phone, but I don't need to have the most brand new expensive phone. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
kind of adopted that mentality a little bit from my dad. But in a sense, yeah, probably my dad got me some like very nonchalant, not so flashy gift during the
Yeah.
holidays, and I'm like, yeah, I'm just enjoying this thing my dad got me. So you got your new shoes and whatever it is, and I just got my book and I'm chilling.
Yeah.
And I never really felt bad in a sense that I didn't get those things because I didn't really want them.
Mhm.
I've never really been the kid that is always like following my parents and just like we'll go to the store per se and just be like screaming and trying to get them
Yeah.
to buy me things.
I
I've always
wasn't
been
like that either.
I was just like, hey, if I get it, it's great. And if I don't, no problem. I'm
Yeah.
just having a good time.
Yeah, I was just like that too. My mom would always like complain like when these other kids would be rolling, screaming because they're not getting like a candy bar or something,
Right.
or they're not getting the toy that they want, or even like spoiled kids when it's Christmas and they don't get the gift that they asked for, or
Right.
maybe they get it, but it's not the right one.
But it's not
And
the exact-
They complain and cry and tell their parents that they hate them.
They hate them, yeah.
So like when I first got here, they didn't tell me the lie about Santa Claus.
Oh,
They basically just gave me gifts on Christmas. So I would just tell them what I wanted, and they would give it to me. But like my cousins, they believed in Santa.
Oh,
And then at one point, I guess one of my cousins found out. They blamed it on me for telling him that Santa was not real. I don't know why.
right.
But I never told them that because I always thought, well, I never got that lie. Because a lot of kids go through that lie that Santa is real. But then you grow up and find out that it was just a lie.
Right.
Which I think it kind of affects the way you look at things, I think.
Right.
It maybe has some kind of psychological effect.
Yeah.
That your parents lied to you about something.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever talked about that in psychology.
We did. I mean, parents lie about a lot of things, and then they lie about it, and they justify it by the fact that like they want to keep you either like innocent or want to make you feel like you're still a kid still. You know what I mean?
Or be obedient.
Or right.
The idea of Santa Claus is to be good throughout the year.
Right.
So in this one day, you get everything that you want.
Right. And that's not really a good approach. Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess kids are being that much patient for waiting a whole year.
The problem is that even if you're bad,
yeah,
you're still getting stuff.
Yeah.
So like the idea of wanting your kids to be good and then rewarding them, it's not a bad idea.
Right.
Because they think that they actually do the good stuff and then they obtain something. But when you're either good or bad and you still obtain something, then there's no reason for you to be good all the time.
Right.
Because you know you're going to eventually just get everything you
right.
wanted.
Or you know you can be bad for this much because you've figured out how to be as disobedient as you want, and then realize that I can start being obedient.
I'll be good when it's the summer.
Right. It's the summer. I'm like, I'm going to be good. And then you just have kids that don't really have a good sense of understanding how to control their self, because they can only control their self to a certain extent because they're searching for something.
Yeah. And I mean, I would get a lot of good stuff in Christmas as I was growing up.
Right. But so you're also the only kid.
Yeah, I'm the only kid, but I also never really asked for stuff.
Right.
I was never the person that if I saw something, I wanted it right away. One of the Christmases, a PlayStation 2 came out, and it was very popular. Mm-hmm. And I think I asked for that. And my parents looked everywhere. It was sold out. So they bought, it was called a GameCube.
Yeah.
And they got me that. And when I got it, I never complained or anything. I was like really happy.
Right.
That I got that, and I played it that night and never complained. I never like asked why you didn't give me this. And that happened like 3 or 4 Christmases. Like the Wii came out, and it was very popular because it had this motion, this new thing where you could motion control. And it was sold out. So they got me a DS, which is basically that. Not the ones I have right now, but it was a older version, which is a handheld that you could flip open. Yeah, I
had those. Those were fun.
I understood that my parents weren't able to get the one I wanted.
Yeah,
and I was fine with whatever they got me.
Yeah,
yeah. But I don't know at what point. I think it was already way before high school. I never asked for anything in Christmas, just because I didn't feel like I needed anything really.
Right.
There wasn't a necessity. So they would still do, like, I guess for my other cousins, the girls, because they were younger, so they were still believing in Santa and stuff like that. And so we would still like write the cards and stuff and put it on the Christmas tree. We wouldn't mail it, but we would put it on the Christmas tree. And then what I wrote was, all I want for Christmas is just for us to be spending time as a family.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like I deserve something or need anything.
Right.
If you want to give me something, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I'm not asking anything. Right. And that's it.
Exactly.
And that's been it for all these years.
Yeah. And I that's honestly how I've approached a lot of things too. And sometimes even I feel like if I want to get something, I should just like, and I think that's a good approach, but I talked to my dad, and for a while, he kind of just like completely guides me through it. And then recently I've noticed that when I go to ask him for something, he just tells me that I think you can figure this out, and then I do go figure it out, and I'm able to do it. So I think we've developed a healthy understanding that he's able to support me when I want to ask him for support, but I should always be striving to learn how to do things and fail and know how to approach solving a problem versus coming to him immediately. And I guess indirectly he's teaching me how to be very responsible. You know what I mean? Teaching me to be able to be not so lazy and just like be very just dependent on him. Because he also has a very strong attitude towards figuring things out himself and spending amount of time on something that he doesn't really know to figure it out. And he's pretty much understood how that relates to getting better at something. So he wants me to just like be able to go and look for the information in a way that like is very strategic and intelligent. And then if I can't find it, I can come to him. But he's not going to dismiss me if I actually need help and I don't know. You know what I mean? But I've just developed this sense of him just like trusting that I can figure it out myself, and which makes me trust myself even more. And I can figure it out myself just because I have this feeling that he just feels that I can do it.
Yeah. And that's, I think, good parenting.
Yeah.
Because you got to know when you can intervene in your child's life, whether it's the right opportunity to guide them.
Right.
But then when it's a good opportunity to let them wander and discover life on their own.
Right.
That idea that you were telling that your dad told you that there's about your birthday, that he didn't really need to give you something on this day only.
Right.
If you wanted something, just ask and he would be able to.
In a sense, like I don't have to wait till the end of the year for something that I'm like actually wanting to get. Like if I want to get it now, then I can get it now and then just use it in a sense like I want it now and use it.
Yeah.
Versus like waiting at the end of the year to spend like a huge amount of money on something. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
And that's how I kind of approach a lot of things that I do. And considering like I just got this new car and then and then now I need to change the tires and stuff like that. Like I don't feel like, especially now that I'm an adult, I don't need to wait for the end of the year to get something that I need because I know that I need it now. You know, I'm not gonna. I mean, if it depends on something that I'm trying to save up for, and if it's something like maybe like some kind of like tennis equipment that I want, and so I'm gonna save some money for it. But if it's something that I want to use and I need, I try and put myself in a position to get it and start using it versus waiting for like at the end of the year and be like, all right, I'm gonna get this for myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like this. I don't really know like the right word, but I'm just gonna use like the system that's been placed in, where at this one day or this week, or actually way before that, on a day that is a day where you give thanks,
right,
for everything that you have,
right,
and things that you were able to obtain or things that you had and are thankful for.
Mm-hmm.
Literally hours later, you're lining up
right
to buy like materialistic things for Christmas. And then all that season, it's basically just a month of spending.
Yeah.
Where you don't spend the whole year, and then all this year.
I know.
You spend all the money that you saved up on things that you probably don't need, or just because you want to satisfy your kid.
Right.
And I feel like, as your dad is saying, you can satisfy your kid throughout the year.
Yeah.
If you see he's being good and you want to reward him, where you don't need to reward him, but if you want to feel generous and reward him with something, then go ahead. It doesn't need to be on his birthday or Christmas or a holiday.
Right.
Or that's why I hate like Father's Day, Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, or like months for certain people.
Right.
Because not just on this day you should care about your father or mother.
Yeah.
You should care about them every day. And if you maybe see, I don't know, something that she might like, or you just want to tell her how much you love her, you should tell her that at any point.
Right.
Or if you want to send her flowers, you can send them at any point, because they're probably cheaper than on Valentine's Day or Mother's Day. Then you should show that love throughout the year for someone.
instead
not
of
just
just
in one single day, and then
yeah.
for the rest of the year, just forget about
Yeah,
them.
and it's really become so normalized that people don't like reflect enough to understand or like even like see the point where they realize that they're getting so much attention today, and then like all the other times it could be like really shitty. You know what I mean? That
Mm.
they're not getting the attention and they love they I guess deserve as a human being on a daily basis. But then there's just a specific day where we're gonna devote all our attention and everything to you. Where maybe this is not even a day that you need it the most. You know what I mean? Where like maybe your life is fine. Maybe like there are other times in your life where maybe if you could have randomly sent your mom flowers or got your dad something or just like told your parents that you loved them, that it would mean something to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think it would mean more because it's not because you're doing it because you have to.
Right.
It's more of a because you want to.
Right.
And you want to show them how much you love them. Not because it's a holiday and you're forced, basically.
Right.
Because everyone says, what are you going to get your mom or what are you going to get your dad or
Right.
something like that. So you're basically forced to give someone something that you're not really planning on doing it,
Right.
but you're doing it because it's what everyone else is
It's
doing.
doing right. Right.
Yeah.
I mean that really just it really just comes back to the fact like we're just like similar minded in certain things and approaching certain things in a way that like I've always taught like even back in high school, if like there was something going on, I feel like if there were people who were confused, you and I were sometimes pretty much on the same page and understanding like,
Yeah.
did you just see that? Yeah, I saw that. Isn't that like, yeah, we both understand. And there are a lot of instances of, and then that's why I think that our relationship is really good in the sense of like we understand how to have a good understanding of boundaries and communication. But overall, like even when we're in high school, it wasn't like we'd spend time together and then feel overwhelmed. You know what I mean? Or the fact that like we're spending too much time together or we didn't spend enough time together. I think that we
Yeah.
both had a good understanding as we do now. And you talk about how you don't mind being alone. And I honestly have put myself in positions where I wanted to be alone intentionally and several times, mainly because I've in moments where I was really struggling to kind of understand life, I was able to get a better understanding about life when I was alone and able to like hear my thoughts and not judge my thoughts, but in a way listen to what my mind is telling me about how I'm experiencing life and how I can go through it and stuff like that without like anybody like not saying that people depend on this, but I've never really felt like I was going through a hard time in life and I wasn't able to just feel like I can get control back again without somebody telling me that you're going to be okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've always felt okay about a lot of things, and probably because I learned fairly soon that in my experience of life, there are moments where like something bad was happening and then it was like for a certain amount of time. Then right after that, life was great. And then I just feel like I just keep experiencing times where life is just really great. And then it goes not so well and then goes either really bad. And then it just keeps changing in that way. And I think that I just understand life in that way. And that makes me be able to be calm in situations where things are not going so well or things are not going the way that I want them to. Because I know at some point they're going to go the way that I want them to because of the way I've been experiencing life.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going down, sometimes you reach a point where you can't go any more down.
Yeah.
And the only way is up.
Right.
So it feels really good when all things are going right again. But then things might go down, and it's good that you have that mentality where
Right.
It doesn't affect you as much if something, maybe for a long period, it's sort of like a downtrend.
Yeah.
Because you know it's eventually going to be.
Yeah, it's not going to
good
be
again.
forever. Especially if I have an understanding that like this is only going to be a matter of time before it changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you can find a way to change it yourself
Yeah.
and not just wait until something happens.
Yeah.
I don't know how taking the psychology major has also helped you.
I
with
mean,
that sort of
I would
thoughts.
say going through psychology for 4 years at Audubon, and every time I think about it, there are so many things that I learned through experiencing being a psych major, reading, writing, listening, going through articles that I've read about how the mind works, about how treatment works for certain disorders, and how people are different. I've learned so much through psychology about the way that people behave and people communicate, understanding what people are truly communicating versus what they like. I've had conversations with people and I've been able to actually get a real answer out of them versus like a fake answer, which is usually something that they say to cover up how they actually feel. And I didn't realize for a while, I didn't realize that people could actually, like, people do that and actually can do that. And I didn't also know that people were doing it. I didn't realize how much it impacted them negatively.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I feel like I do that basically all the time. So when people say, how are you?
yeah,
I always say good.
yeah,
And I feel sometimes I say to myself if I'm actually good or not.
right,
But as I look at it, I always feel like I'm good.
right.
Maybe you might not see me like be all upbeat or anything like that.
Yeah.
But inside me, I feel
Right.
like
I mean,
great.
it happens at work sometimes because
Yeah.
I could be working and working on something, and I guess in your eyes it doesn't seem like the most pleasant. I string a lot of tennis rackets, so like I'll be on a tennis court teaching for a couple hours, and then usually I'll just like get on the stringing machine and start stringing immediately. And people always will like stop by and ask me questions, and sometimes people will make a comment about how enjoyable the experience is. And I don't think it's like an enjoyable experience for me per se. I just think it's something that I'm working on, and then it's like going to take this time. I'm going to do it and it'll be done. Like I think people are trying to have conversations about the activity that I'm doing in a sense, like they feel like it's really boring.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, I'm just doing this because I have the time to do it. I'm going to make easy, like quick cash and then just be done. But people will just like make comments like, "Oh, that looks fun," or like, "That sounds fun," or "Are you having a good time?" Yeah, "Are you having a great time?" I'm like, I'm not having a great time. I'm just stringing this racket. That's it.
Yeah. And I mean, they've done that at my work as well, where so when you have a screen and you get these tickets
Right.
with food that you have to make, and a lot of people, once it like starts filling up, they start panicking. they get stressed, like when they don't have something, or they're just struggling to keep up, and they get really stressed. And then I'm just there whenever that happens. I don't say anything. I'm just there doing them at my pace, or I speed up because I know that it's time. Like these are going longer than they should, so I speed up. And people say like, "How do you do it?"
Right.
Or why? How come you don't get stressed or mad when this stuff happens? And my answer is that this is just a job.
Right.
I just come here, do this, and then I go home, and it's that just stays here.
Yeah.
Or I'm not gonna be here that long, and I'm gonna move on and do something else.
Yeah.
Why should I stress my life and be unhappy when I know this is temporary?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're like shook.
Yeah.
they don't know what because like when they ask me stuff, I genuinely like tell them like what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like truthfully, like I don't go around corners or stuff like that. Or I might, like, if they ask personal stuff, I might lie because I really don't like telling other people my stuff.
Right.
When it comes to like stuff like that,
know.
or they want to know like why I'm not like that, then I tell them exactly, and then they like get they sort of have this look that are like, okay,
yeah, they get it,
yeah,
they get it, but they don't think about it that way.
Yeah,
so then when you say
they get it, but their emotions get the best of them. That they sort of ignore that and just focus on
No, so
getting sure.
a similar thing happened to me because I think I don't remember if I mentioned this, but I just recently took on the role of being like the tournament director at the tennis club, and so I showed it like in January we had a huge tournament, and this is me just like really running it by myself, and well I was in a position to run it by myself, but the capacity of players involved in the tournament was so big that getting organized and creating the match times and stuff like that was going to be very difficult.
Oh, okay.
So I honestly, I wasn't, I couldn't, I did what I could and I thought it was the best results, but it wasn't. But I wasn't disappointed in that. And the nice thing is like my boss helped me understand how to create the match times and make sure certain matches don't overlap and stuff like that. But the reason why I mentioned that is because even during that time where I had no, like, not saying I didn't have any clue what I was doing, but I was going to be spending a lot of time trying to make sure everything was organized in a certain way. I was like really quiet and like working on things. And then my boss tells me like later on or a week later that he wasn't sure if I was handling it well because I was like super quiet. I'm just like, hey, like
you were just in a zone.
I'm in a situation where I can't really, I don't have all the answers and you're helping me. And so all I'm doing is just like doing the work. That's all that matters to me. There's no point in me panicking because if we're doing the work, then it's going to get done. It's just going to take a matter of time, probably a longer time than we want to, but it's going to get done. So that's what I'm focused on. But he probably thought I was like freaking out because I'm sitting there quiet. I'm just like, I'm just working with you because I know that we're going to be able to figure this out, especially since you're here. And that's why I'm quiet. I'm not quiet because like in my mind, I'm like, if I don't get this thing done, I'm going to lose this position. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I totally understand that.
Yeah, I have approached a lot of things that way, and people always will say like, and I didn't really think about myself like that, but people would watch me when I'm teaching lessons, and they don't know me, but like after when I walk up to go use the restroom or I go upstairs from the courts, because inside the building there are stairs to walk down to the courts because the courts are on the lower level. So whenever I walk up to the front desk, I guess, and some of the parents that were watching me teaching the lesson, they were like, you're really like patient. But I guess I knew that, but I didn't really see it from their perspective because like when I'm on the court, I'm just like really in the zone working on, if I'm working on a shot with somebody, then we're specifically working on that. And I don't just like throw balls around like in a most random way for them to hit shots. Everything is very like structured. Even where I tell people to like push the balls to, it's like very intentional. Where they stand on the court when we're working on specific drill is very intentional because I want them to just see the court in a certain way. So if we're working on forehands and you're a right-handed person, then I'm working on you on the do side of the court and you're working on understanding how to hit balls from that side of the court. But I also teach people to hit the forehand on the ad side of the court too. You know what I mean? But everything looks very strategic. But I guess I didn't realize that that's what it looks like when I'm teaching. Because I mean, once I'm teaching, I'm there, so I can't see what I'm doing.
Yeah, but you're just going through what you
but
do.
from what other people are saying, it looks like I'm just like doing things very methodically, and
or calculated.
Oh, calculated, and I'm just like.
But you're just going through. You're just flowing. And not really. Thinking a lot of what actions you're doing next and stuff like that.
It's just getting
with the flow,
going with the flow, and then just like being really like, because tennis is a sport where, as I've gone into teaching more, I realized that, the development of a tennis player, especially for people that don't play that many hours out of the week, it takes a certain time and it takes a certain amount of either weeks or months for a certain type of players, and so. In the beginning, when I first started teaching, and I had kids that I was teaching, there were moments where I was like, okay, we've been working on this shot for like maybe 2 or 3 weeks. Why isn't this getting better? You know what I mean? Because I'm genuinely concerned about the fact that I want them to get better at it, because that's what we're both here for. And so then I realized that I was like rushing through the process of developing them through the strokes because I wanted to move on to certain things before working longer on certain things. So I guess that's where I started doing things, not necessarily slow, but I started realizing how much longer it takes for someone to work on this specific thing that we're working on every single week for this amount of time for them to be able to like fully grasp the idea of doing it this way or moving their arm this way or even turning their hip.
Yeah,
You know what
and
I
it
mean?
varies like depending on
Yeah.
the student that's learning. Sometimes they don't pick it up fast,
Exactly.
and it takes them longer, or maybe they need a certain way of you teaching them, and
Right.
that's good that you like adapt
Right.
based on other students that you had. You learn from that, and then get better as an instructor.
Right.
And,
But for sure when you mention how people freak out when they're in a situation where like they're under a little bit of pressure at work. I mean, when I'm under pressure at work, even learning from psychology, I know that I need to just be thinking very clearly about what I need to do because that's all that's going to really probably change the situation and make it a little bit better. I don't really have the time to, and even if I do feel an emotion coming up, I realize that it's kind of pointless to be either angry or upset about what's going to happen or what's happening. I need to just focus on changing the situation while I'm experiencing it, even though maybe I might be upset. I need to just keep doing through.
Yeah, totally understand. As far as like your psychology major, what did you ever talk about religion in that?
No, we didn't really talk about religion mainly. No, we didn't. I didn't have a class that kind of tied religion with psychology, and probably because there. Once you start learning more about the way the mind works, you start realizing certain things about how you start. Well, okay, so one of the classes that I took, and we learned about how to persuade somebody. And this is where I kind of got a better understanding of like how to communicate with people. Even when I teach lessons, how to like talk to people and to getting them to not in a sense persuade them to just like keep doing it, but like give them a better understanding of like talk to them in a way that like they can be committed to the process of understanding this it's going to take a time to do. You know what I mean? And this like I'm not persuading them to do this because I know they can keep doing this and I can make money out of it, which is part of the truth. But also the other truth is that I need them to be able to like be realistic with what we're trying to do here. And in a sense, how you're going to achieve this goal, it's not going to just happen in one day. It could for you if you have a certain level of attention and understanding of like the way you can use your mind to control your body. But if you don't have that good understanding of how to move well and how to understand coordination and stuff like that, most people are just like approaching this and think they're gonna just like start doing it this day they got there. You know what I mean? And so I get into a conversation where I kind of break down and teach them and make them understand more about the process and how much time they're gonna have to either put in to get something like this out. And so yes, so psychology has taught me a lot about that. But also something that I learned in psychology that really changed my life is we read a book about the afterlife and people talking about their experience, their near-death experience and stuff like that. And that really changed my mind because I learned, and that's where I actually remember a little bit more because I had learned a little bit more about the chemicals that are released when you're experiencing death. And I don't remember exactly, like you remember it more because you explained it a little bit better, but
I don't actually remember how I explained it.
I don't remember I explained, but you basically talked about how when you're experiencing death and you're I guess you're passing or you're losing your consciousness, do you experience people say they experience where they're seeing the light, or
they see God sometimes.
Or they see God sometimes,
or a loved one.
And so then you talked about how
that chemical. Oh yeah, I remember now. Yeah, the chemical comes out. And so I think it helps you sort of accept that you're dying
Right.
and not feel a sort of scared
Right.
or frightened of that idea.
Right.
You're seeing happy things.
Mm-hmm.
That way, when it happens, it basically is like a transition where whether there is something after that, then it helps you transition
Right.
happily to that
Right.
and not go through suffering.
Right. Exactly. But even more, I think also I wanted to mention from studying psychology so much, I did a lot of reading and writing, and more reading and understanding what I'm reading than anything else, because there's so many concepts and theories and explanations for certain things that I had no clue that I'll learn about. And there's some of them that I have to read 3-4 times. And then when I fully grasped what they actually meant, I realized how interesting they were. You know what I mean? So I think in one of my classes, we talked about bats and how they experience life, and especially in this class, we talked about how we've learned so much. We as humans learn so much about a lot of things, animals, and especially the bat, how the bat flies and is able to navigate through the world using the waves that they emit and bounces back towards them.
Yeah.
And so we talked about how we know all these things and we know how the bat is experiencing these things, but the only way to know what a bat is experiencing is to be a bat. You know what I mean?
Actually, yeah.
To actually be a bat. You know what I mean? So we know all the things that bats, I guess, they
Are able to do.
they're able to do, but we don't really know a bat in the sense of like the fact that we've never been a bat before.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And that's something that I had that kind of made me realize certain things about the way the mind works. And even in that example you made about people seeing certain things about other people and then wishing that their life was like that. You know what I mean? I think that
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
You were saying like
I was saying,
if someone wants to be like Ryan Gosling,
yeah,
then if they end up being like him, they're gonna
lose yourself.
Yeah, they're gonna lose themselves. They're not gonna be. I'm not gonna be Mario anymore.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be basically Ryan Gosling
Right.
2.0.
yeah, 2.0, or you're just a version of, you're just like a copy of Ryan Gosling, and you lose yourself. I think people, when people make that comment about saying, "Oh, I wish I was like this person, I was like that person," they don't consider the fact that making making the realism of having something like that means that you're going to be able to lose all the things about yourself, and you become non-existent pretty much.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
becomes, you're something else versus something that you think that you can have. Like, how would it feel to just be in Ryan Reynolds' shoes, or like his consciousness? Like, it would just feel weird because you can't have two consciousness in one, like, mind or body.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I can't say I want to be like you, Mario, and then be able to hear your thoughts and my thoughts. There's so much there's like a lot of just like difficulties and I guess conflict that's going to be going on between the consciousness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that was something that was weird to learn, because it's just like, yeah, it makes sense. Like, if I decide or wish so much that I want to be somebody else, then I'm not going to be myself. I'm just going to be that person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally understand.
In the full
So
sense.
what kind of well, there's so many like branches of psychology.
Yeah.
Which one did you branch
Well,
out to
I
more?
didn't I didn't branch out to one more. I was just more gravitated to
In general? Broad?
so I have always been interested more about the mind part, and then learning about how I guess how people think, what our thoughts mean, how to control your thoughts, how to use your thoughts to control your behavior, and then put yourself, like, how to like literally talk yourself into doing something that maybe you don't want to do, but you understand that it's going to be good for you. And the repetition of saying certain things and then hearing, like, saying something and then you can hear yourself saying it can like make an impact on like how you feel or you behave in a certain way.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were all really like interesting things that I've always wanted to know, but they were even more fun to learn how they work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was taking a class, intro to psych, after I took that class, I kind of wanted to change like my major and
Right.
try to be like a psychologist,
Yeah.
because I always love like listening to other people's problems
Right.
or stuff that's happening to them, and maybe if we can find like a solution or something like that to
Right.
it. But for some reason, I feel like, I don't know how you probably felt, is that it's probably too much school or investment into it, because you were settled with this tennis job and were
Yeah. So, like, I guess senior year, I already knew that I was going to teach tennis after graduation. So, honestly, like, I guess sophomore year, my plan, once I started teaching tennis a little bit for a couple hours a week, my plan was to be a part-time tennis instructor and then a part-time clinical psychologist. And like you said, which is kind of weird in a way that you don't mind listening to people's problems. There have been a lot of my friends talk to me about their personal problems willingly, and I've never really like gone to one of my friends like, hey, if you want to talk to somebody, you can talk to me. I've never really like done that, offered myself, and I've done that recently, mainly because there's some people that I was talking to and I stopped talking to them. But in the sense of like, when people open up to me so easily, sometimes I'm just like, is this something that the kind of energy or the kind of personality that I give off that puts people in a comfortable position to talk to me? And especially in my line of work, I work with adults too sometimes, and I work with kids. And sometimes kids would just tell me something that I wasn't really ready to, like, not hear, but I wasn't really expecting them to say.
Okay.
There are certain adults that I teach talk to me about their personal problems. And I didn't really know that I'll be able to be in a position where they feel comfortable enough to talk to me about that before I started teaching tennis.
Oh, okay.
I thought I was just gonna be on the court. I'm just working with you to hit these strokes, and then after that, that's it. You're leaving and you're going on with your life. But I've had parents that talk to me about their experience parenting their kids and talk about their life, and I've had people open up to me about their personal problems just willingly out of nowhere. And I think I've always felt like I've been a really good listener. And that's what I guess makes people feel even more comfortable to talk to me about certain things. But I've also been, as long as I remember, a non-judgmental person. When I talk to somebody, I really just, and then especially when I know that person, I really try and get a good sense of like exactly what they're trying to tell me versus what they're saying or they feel like they're saying. Sometimes I'll have a conversation with somebody and I'll ask them like, is that really what you mean to say, or is that really what you feel? And so then sometimes they get caught off guard because they realize that they're just like masking, or they're saying something to like and hide behind like how they feel about certain things.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
that's good then. It was sort of, I don't know, something unexpected that you have like a psychology major and at some point wanted to be a clinical psychologist.
Yeah.
But then ended up just pursuing teaching tennis.
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, it's sort of funny because it's sort of you're being that clinical therapist.
I don't
on the court, but
right. I don't diagnose. Or prescribe.
Yeah.
But they're like the psychoanalysis is there a lot of like just like listening, talking, re-listening or re-questioning what they said in a way that makes them think about it a little bit different. And then giving them the understanding of like maybe what they're experiencing isn't exactly what they think they're experiencing. They need to think about it a different way. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so people ask me all the time if I use my if like I'll be like, okay, I just graduated last year, and they're like, what did you major in? Psychology. And I'm like, so what do you do now? I'm like, I'm doing it. Like for the amount of people that I teach tennis, and people come with different personalities and people, and they're totally different, honestly, as they are. But I have to I communicate with certain kids completely different like I do with certain adults. Like you could watch me teach a lesson and I could communicate with a kid and we'll be joking and laughing and they'll be having a great time and still be able to get through the lesson. Or I can go through another lesson where everything's like completely serious and everything is like right on. And they just like, that's their experience. And that's just like, I guess I kind of just adapt and adjust to like how they're experiencing the lesson, you know. But for the most part, whenever any of my lessons come, I always ask them like how they're doing and get a good sense of where they are mentally. And I try also to get a good sense of where they are physically, because I want to be able to teach a lesson in a way that they can get something out of it if they're mentally tired or physically tired. Or if both,
Okay.
then I can do something. I can talk to them in a way that we can do certain drills that could help improve certain part of their stroke, and they don't have to worry about all these other things that they have to think about or feel
Mm.
about. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Well, that's good that
Yeah.
these people
Yeah.
feel comfortable to talk to you about certain things that
Yeah.
they have in mind sometimes, or
Yeah.
just want to get out
And
there.
I also think that it also creates a better a better relationship, because a lot of people come to tennis and aren't really sure how long it's going to take them for them to be really good at it. And once I develop a good relationship with the person I'm teaching, we're able to like understand that this is going to be something that's going to be kind of steady, and then they're comfortable with that. They might have moments where they're like, this is not working and I don't really like it, but I'll have the conversation with them again to make them understand and have a good sense of where they've been, where we are, where we could go, and what, like, just be realistic about what we're doing. And in a sense, if it's not working right now, that doesn't mean it doesn't work at all. It's just because you haven't really improved on it, and it's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
That-
No, teaching tennis has been, I mean, it's been a very enjoyable experience, especially being able to like I've been working with certain kids for over a year now. And so I've been able to see how they like even hit the ball from like the beginning to right now. And it's just like an enjoyable experience for me to see the growth. Even for me, but like for them, it's even more enjoyable for them, because before they couldn't do a lot of the things that we're working on, and now they can do a lot and even more. But in their eyes, they're just like, they think they suck, or they need to like, and obviously they need to improve in a lot of things, but they're doing so much better like right now than compared to before, where it's just like can't really see where this is going.
yeah.
Yeah. For me, it's not, I'm not saying that I want to do that at work, but it's just like the nature and the atmosphere of where I work. People will just keep communicating with you all the time.
Yeah.
Whether you want to or not, people will say hi. And sometimes even when I'm stringing a racket, like I'll close the door because I want to just be able to get this racket done. Because sometimes I'll be stringing and people will like come and want to talk to me and they'll have questions. And then honestly, whenever I'm stringing, I'm always trying to like be done as fast as possible. But people will come in and come talk to me, and then like I'll have to like have a whole conversation with them and stuff like that. Sometimes I'm like, I really want to get this done, but sometimes I'm like, okay, it's not really that big of a deal. I can just step out for a second, talk to them, hear what they have to say, especially if they wanted my feedback. And it's always, I think about it now. I probably will keep giving people feedback when I'm like busy working on something, only because I don't know if I'll have another opportunity to talk to them again, or they will like whatever they're asking me will be like fresh in their mind again. Like they'll lose all the like whatever they're trying to talk to me about. Because in tennis, like especially when it usually happens when people like finish a match and then they'll see me and they'll talk to me. And sometimes I'll watch matches and just look at what's going on and see what people are not doing so well and what they need to improve on. And so when I'm back in the office working on it, they'll come talk to me and I'm like, yeah, I saw these things and something like that. Yeah, but for the most part, honestly, when I'm on the court, I honestly just focus entirely on the person I'm working on. And sometimes I guess people watch me and it just seems like I'm really serious, which I am. But that's mainly because what I'm working on is so important to me that I don't want to talk to anybody else in the moment that I'm working with somebody.
Yeah.
I just want to just be able to like work on something right now, especially because, I mean, they're paying for it, but also I really see the importance in what I'm doing, and I see the importance of their time. They're taking the time of their day to come here to spend it with me. And I need to be able to like help them as much as possible. I don't have time to be like chatting with people across the court and stuff like that. I just want to be able to do what I'm doing right now and then just like be fully into it, because I realized that there are times where I would miss something that's happening because I'm not being fully involved in what I'm doing. And so
yeah, you want to be committed and give the person that's paying like their worth of what they're paying for,
exactly,
and helping them improve, and maybe doze off and then miss something that might be important, and then later on it's gonna affect them.
Right, exactly. And I've learned to approach working on things that way, and I think I've gotten better at it, but I've always been trying to learn to be fully invested in what I'm doing. Like, for example, what we're doing right now, working on the podcast, we both have our phones away and we're not like paying attention to what messages we're receiving because we want to be fully involved in it. And then I think that gives us the opportunity to make sure that I can fully hear what you're saying and remember what you're saying. And then you can also remember what I'm saying. And it makes the experience a little bit better. And we feel like we're staying on topic. We're staying engaged. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I like that too, because since I mainly focus on being alone most of the time, I don't interact with many people, and I don't build up that skill of getting to understand how to speak with other people or read them and see if maybe I shouldn't talk about certain stuff and stuff like that, because humans are creatures that are meant to interact.
Right.
And they're always seeking these little like groups to be in.
Yeah.
Which relates to religion.
Right.
Where they always want to be a part of something that gives them some kind of purpose. And this, I wanted to do the podcast mainly because I wanted to talk more and for longer periods of time, because I don't talk at all really. Yeah. And then maybe later on bring in other people that want to share some experiences, and I want to like talk to them, because maybe throughout the times that I've probably met the person or I haven't met them at all, I want to learn more about them,
right,
and interact with other people, not just, I mean, it's fine to just do it with you, but then maybe incorporate from time to time other people. That way I can better my skills at communicating.
Right, exactly. I mean, I have one of my friends, one of my coworkers, a really good friend, tennis friend, he's interested in being on a podcast, so maybe we can figure out a time to work with him, and hopefully like a day like this will work again and around this time, because he's taught me a lot about tennis, teaching tennis, in the physical way, in the mental way. We've worked a lot on understanding nutrition, and strengthening and conditioning. So we've covered a lot of bases of like what the demands are for a good tennis player, exposure and playing tournaments and stuff like that. We've talked about a lot of that stuff. And yeah, he's actually listened to the whole thing, the first episode, and it's like, it was good. So we should have him on for sure. And then
I mean, if whoever listens and ever wants to be a part of it, I mean, if most people are from like your relationship,
right,
then they can always reach out to you,
right.
Or if it's someone that doesn't or know us that well, or if it's some of our friends, then always like reach out and see if we can make something work out.
Yeah. And
I mean, we're in my room right now, but hopefully I can work out like a setup where it's more comfortable and more spacious, where everyone has like their own like little space and area. That way we're not all crunched up and stuff like that, where maybe you might not feel comfortable.
Right.
Or sometimes I feel like maybe if we bring in someone that I don't know that well and they rob me.
Yeah. they just like, whoa, you got a nice room, got a lot of good equipment.
All these goodies in here, and just yank some out. But I mean,
no, it's all good people.
Yeah.
It's all good people.
Yeah. But yeah, and later on I want to have like a really good layout.
Yeah.
And then maybe I want to incorporate the TV somehow, because it's just there, and maybe play like if we're talking about something and we have like a reference
Right.
or a current event and we play like a little video clip,
Mm-hmm.
people won't be able to see it, but they'll be able to listen to it.
Yep.
And then grasp on what we're talking about, or we
Right.
can explain also what we're seeing.
Exactly.
But yeah, hopefully everything gets a little bit better with the setup. People start listening more, and then,
Right.
I mean, we're always gonna get better, always.
Yeah.
Because I mean, every time I edit it, I see the stuff that, or the way I talk, or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and or maybe if we stay on topic, or how we're flowing in a conversation. Because I listen to the whole thing basically,
Same.
and
It's really
it's-
it's honestly it's weird.
yeah,
For some of me, it's like oh wait, I did say that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So when like we first recorded the first episode, and as soon as you left, I started listening to it just to see if it recorded well.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it was really weird just listening to me, and I felt really self-conscious about myself.
Right.
And then later on, I gave it a few days, and then I went back, listened to it, and for some reason I didn't really feel like self-conscious about it
Yeah.
anymore.
The first listen is always like, oh,
Yeah.
that's what I sound like,
Yeah,
and that's how I talk, and that's how I just stay in my flow.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, as always, like 2 hours and something.
Yeah. How do we
Yeah,
do?
2 hours and a half.
2.5.
almost.
Yeah. So, we talked a little bit about religion. We talked a little bit about our experience, discovering and asking really intelligent questions about some of the contradictions we found in the Bible, and how we not really satisfied with how people approach answering questions about a lot of suffering in the world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then having the way our mindset is in life, and looking in things and the way we look at them,
Yeah.
and comparing it to other people, how they view it. And we're not judging them or wanting to make them change. It's good if they change their mindset, but we're not forcing anyone to do it,
Right.
because they have the right to think the way they think.
Exactly.
But we're just giving another perspective of how we see it, and it's probably like a healthier way of seeing stuff,
Right.
where you don't hurt yourself, not physically but mentally. And we can always talk about other stuff like this, where maybe like in this topic that we talked about, we basically agreed on, but maybe there might be other stuff that we disagree on. But I feel it's totally fine if we do that,
Yeah.
because we're just having a conversation, and we're not really fighting
Right.
on whether who's right or wrong,
Yeah.
because you have a way of looking at things, and I have my own way. You can't be me, and
I
You
can't
can
be.
be-
I don't wish to be you. I hope
Yeah.
you want to be yourself than me.
yeah. And then if I want you to know me better, then I express the experiences.
Yeah.
And that's why we did this podcast, and
Yeah.
hopefully other people come and share their
Your
experiences.
experiences. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, we touched a little bit on your major, so maybe next episode we can talk a little bit more about the college experience.
Yeah.
Here, what you've experienced with going through 4 years at Otterbein
Yeah.
on campus, and then I went like 2 or 3 years at Columbus State, not on campus, but just
Right.
driving in and then driving out.
Yeah.
So we'll share that little experience that we have
Mm-hmm.
on the next episode.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.